At least 8 people were killed after an Israeli strike hit a 5-story residential building in Rafah. Ambulances and vehicles carried the injured to the Kuwaiti hospital. Meanwhile, the Israeli army also shelled the Maghazi refugee camp in Gaza. Gaza's health ministry said that the Israeli army killed at least 126 Palestinians in the past 24 hours. The total death toll in the enclave has crossed 23,000. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Israeli leaders to avoid harming civilians in Gaza. Blinken said, and I quote, "There's been far too much loss." His comments came after meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet. However, Blinken stopped short of calling for a ceasefire in the region. Meanwhile, British Foreign Minister David Cameron said he worries that Israel may have breached international law. Cameron said that Israel could have done better to avoid civilian casualties. He added, however, that Britain continues to stand by Israel's right to defend itself following Hamas's October 7th attack. Israeli President Isaac Herzog has accused South Africa of hypocrisy. Herzog was talking about a lawsuit filed by South Africa against his country at the International Court of Justice. It accuses Israel of genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. Herzog said, and I quote, "There is nothing more atrocious and preposterous than this claim." Herzog's comments came as hearings in the ICJ case are set to begin tomorrow. Lebanon has said that it is ready for talks over long-term border stability with Israel. The country's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati said this during a meeting with UN officials. He said, and I quote, "We seek permanent stability and call for a lasting, peaceful solution." This comes as the Lebanon-based Hezbollah group has been trading fire with the Israeli army at their border. Yesterday, Hezbollah had confirmed that Israel had shot down one of their top commanders. In other news, the Pentagon has revealed that U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd had undergone a surgery to treat prostate cancer. Following this, he suffered an infection which led to his secret hospitalization on January 1st. Austin faced widespread criticism after senior officials were not informed of his hospitalization for 3 days. Masked gunmen broke into the studio of a television channel in Ecuador. They threatened the terrified staff with large guns, forcing them to lie down on the floor. Police say they later freed all the staff and made 13 arrests. The incident follows the kidnappings of at least 7 police officers and a series of explosions which took place a day after an emergency was declared in Ecuador. The emergency was declared after a notorious gangster vanished from his prison cell on Sunday. Meanwhile, Peru's government has declared an emergency along its northern border with Ecuador. Peruvian Prime Minister Alberto Otarola said the army troops will be deployed to help the police forces. Peru's defense and interior ministers will also travel to the border to coordinate operations. Some 181 community activists were murdered in Colombia in 2023. This is according to the country's Human Rights Ombudsman's office. However, the office added that the number of activists killed were lower than in 2022. In 2022, a record 215 activists were murdered. The killings occurred despite President Gustavo Petro's total peace policy. The government hopes that the policy will end Colombia's 6 decades of internal armed conflict. French President Emmanuel Macron has named 34-year-old Gabriel Attal as the country's new prime minister. This makes Attal the youngest and first openly gay prime minister in France's history. In recent months, Attal polled as one of France's most popular politicians. He replaced outgoing Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne, who resigned on Monday. Borne's resignation came ahead of Macron's expected cabinet reshuffle. China has denied accusations of espionage activities against the U.S. Beijing's remarks came after a U.S. Navy sailor was sentenced to 27 months in jail for allegedly spying for China. The sailor has been accused of accepting nearly $15,000 in bribes from a Chinese intelligence officer. This was in exchange for photos of private U.S. military information. Taiwan issued an island-wide air alert yesterday, interrupting a news conference held by Taiwanese Foreign Minister Joseph Wu. The security alert stated that a Chinese satellite had flown over its airspace. Wu said the launch of the satellite came at a sensitive moment ahead of Taiwan's presidential elections this weekend. However, the Chinese state media later said it was an astronomical satellite. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited the country's arms factories this week. Pyongyang's official news agency released photographs of Kim's visit to one of the munitions factories. He was seen inspecting mobile short-range missile-launched vehicles. His visit came as the US and its allies condemned North Korea's arms transfers with Russia. Carbon emissions from the first 2 months of the Israel-Hamas war were more than the yearly carbon footprint of some 20 climate-vulnerable nations. This is according to a study conducted by researchers in the UK and US. Over 281,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide were emitted during the first 60 days of the war. The research looked into the carbon dioxide emissions by aircraft, tanks, and bomb explosions. The Parliament of Norway has voted in favour of allowing Arctic seabed mineral exploration. Norway aims to be the first nation to engage in sea mining at a commercial scale. The law was passed despite concerns over its environmental impact. Now, companies will be given rights to explore and extract minerals from some areas of the Arctic seabed. According to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, 2023 was the world's hottest year on record. It was likely the world's warmest year in the last 100,000 years. The Earth was 1.48 degrees Celsius warmer than in the pre-industrial period from 1850 to 1900. The US witnessed a record number of billion-dollar climate disasters in 2023. Last year, the country's average temperature was the 5th highest on record. This is according to America's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. The disasters included wildfires, floods, tornadoes, winter storms, and hurricanes. According to a report by German insurance company Munich Re, thunderstorms and devastating earthquakes cost the world over $250 billion in damages last year. Assets worth over $66 billion were destroyed due to thunderstorms in North America. In Europe, the losses amounted to over $10 billion. According to a study published by America's National Academy of Sciences, every liter of bottled water has hundreds of thousands of nanoplastic particles. Nanoplastics pose a greater risk to the health of humans as they are smaller than even microplastics. The report states that nanoplastics have the capability to move from the intestines and lungs to the bloodstream before making their way to the heart and brain. Over 100 active permafrost structures have been identified in the Himalayas in India's Kashmir region. They pose a natural disaster risk as they melt and move away due to climate change. Permafrost is the frozen layer on or under the Earth's soil where gravel and sand are bound by ice. In business news, the World Bank has warned that global growth in 2024 is set to slow for the third year in a row. The global GDP is likely to grow 2.4% this year. This is a slowdown from the 2.6% growth in 2023 and 3% in 2022. The World Bank added that the first half of the 2020s will likely have the worst half-decade performance in 30 years. The US market watchdog has said that its account on social media platform X was briefly compromised. Following this, a fake message was posted saying the regulator has approved exchange-traded funds for Bitcoin. However, the Securities and Exchange Commission has clarified that ETFs have not yet been approved. The posting came as the SEC was widely expected to finally approve the Bitcoin ETFs. Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun has acknowledged errors by the company after an accident in Alaska Airlines. Calhoun said that an accident like this, quote-unquote, can never happen again. His remarks were Boeing's first public acknowledgement of errors ever since a piece of the plane blew out mid-air. Following this, more than 170 Boeing jets were grounded in the US for inspection. BMW sales hit a record high in 2023. The German auto giant reported that it sold more than 2.5 million units last year. Yearly sales at the company were up 6.5%. BMW also reached its electric vehicle target. EVs accounted for 15% of its total sales figure. The car maker is confident of maintaining its battery electric sales trajectory next year. Meanwhile, Volkswagen deliveries rose by 12% last year. The auto giant said it sold 9.24 million vehicles in 2023. The figures indicate a post-pandemic recovery at the German firm. The sales of electric vehicles across the group were up by 35%. However, executives have warned that EV demand isn't developing as expected. Sony Honda Mobility has unveiled its Afeela electric vehicle. The company says that the car can be driven using a PlayStation 5 controller. The prototype was unveiled at the Consumer Electronics Show in the US city of Las Vegas. The company claims its multiple sensors can also monitor traffic and provide support to the driver. Shares of Spanish drug maker Grifols plunged by more than 40% yesterday. This was following the release of a report by UK-based short seller Gotham City Research. The report questioned the validity of the Spanish firm's financial figures. Grifols has denied the hedge fund's allegations. The world's largest asset manager, Blackrock, will cut about 3% of its workforce. The cuts will wipe off about 600 positions from the company. The job cuts are not focused on any single team. It'll likely affect positions across the company. However, Blackrock said it expects to have a larger headcount by the end of 2024. Amazon's streaming unit Twitch will reportedly cut 35% of its staff. This will affect about 500 positions in the company. The move is likely to be announced as soon as today. This comes as Twitch continues to remain unprofitable 9 years after Amazon's acquisition. In March last year, the company laid off more than 400 employees. Meta Platforms has said it will restrict more content for teens on Instagram and Facebook. All teenagers will have the most restrictive content control settings on Meta apps. Meta says the change will make teens less exposed to sensitive content such as suicide and self-harm. This comes after pressure from global regulators to protect children from harmful content. Moving to sports, let's start with cricket. Australia women beat India in last night's T20 match. Hosts India batted first and scored 147 runs in their innings. Australia chased down the target in the 18th over with 7 wickets in hand. Alyssa Healy and Beth Mooney both scored half-centuries. Australia have won the 3-match T20 series with a final score of 2-1. Angelo Matthews has been called up to join the Sri Lankan T20 squad. Matthews will now be seen playing against Zimbabwe. The 36-year-old is making a comeback to the T20 squad after a gap of over 3 years. The T20 series between Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe begins on the 14th of January. All-rounder Shakib Al Hasan has made his mark in politics. After the final vote count ended, it was declared that Shakib had won the parliamentary seat from his home district of Magura. Now, a video which shows the all-rounder slapping a fan outside the polling booth has gone viral. The fan has not taken any police action against the former Bangladesh captain. Shakib won his parliamentary seat with a comfortable margin of at least 150,000 votes. In football, Middlesbrough stunned Chelsea 1-0 in last night's EFL Cup match. Hayden Hackney scored the only goal of the match in the 37th minute. Chelsea will now look for redemption as they face Middlesbrough in the second leg on the 24th of January. Tottenham Hotspur have signed German forward Timo Werner on loan until the end of the season. Werner has been playing for German club RB Leipzig since 2022. The financial details of the deal between Spurs and Leipzig have not been disclosed. Werner will join Spurs as a cover for South Korean striker Son Heung-min, who has been called up by his national team. Liverpool defender Trent Alexander-Arnold has been ruled out for the next 3 weeks. Alexander-Arnold had suffered a knee injury during the 2-0 win over Arsenal on Sunday. The Reds are yet to name a replacement for the injured defender. In basketball, Sacramento Kings beat Detroit Pistons last night. The final score was 131-110. Sacramento center Domantas Sabonis was the highest scorer of the game with 37 points. The Detroit Pistons have now won just thrice and lost 34 matches this season. The Los Angeles Clippers beat the Phoenix Suns last night. The final score was 138-111. A combined effort by Paul George, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard helped the Clippers reach the big total. Phoenix forward Kevin Durant was the highest scorer of the match with 30 points, but his efforts failed to secure the win. In shooting, India's Isha Singh has secured her spot at the Paris Olympics. This comes after the 19-year-old won a gold in the 10-meter air pistol event at the Asian qualifiers. Meanwhile, Isha's cousin Varun Singh has also qualified for the Olympics. Varun achieved this by also winning gold at the Asian qualifiers. A new survey has found that almost 50% of rugby match officials are subjected to abuse. At least 1,200 officials were surveyed. As per the report, the largest category of offences were for dissent against referees. After the survey was released, the rugby union has introduced sanctions against abusing match officials. In entertainment news, singer and actor Selena Gomez took to social media to clarify what she said to Taylor Swift during the Golden Globes Awards. She wrote on Instagram that she told Swift of two of her friends who had an affair. This comes after their video went viral from the ceremony, with speculation that they were speaking about Gomez's rumored ex-boyfriend Timothée Chalamet. A play based on Stephen King's Shawshank Redemption was staged in China's Shenzhen city. The play was performed in Chinese by actors from 8 different countries. The director, Zhang Guoli, said that the story's Western narrative has been translated to suit China's cultural context. The story revolves around the bond between inmates who are being held in the Shawshank State Penitentiary. Netflix released the trailer of their upcoming sci-fi drama series, Three-Body Problem. The series has been produced by Game of Thrones producers David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. Benioff said that the series starts in the late 60s and goes to the end of time. Director Jon Favreau announced that he will be directing and producing a new Star Wars film. The movie has been titled The Mandalorian and Grogu. The cameras will start rolling later this year. Tom Cruise has signed a deal with Warner Brothers to produce original and franchise films. The films will star Cruise, and his production company will work closely with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers said that they are thrilled to be working with Tom Cruise, who they called an absolute legend in the film industry. Actor Natalie Portman revealed in an interview that she had never done method acting in her career. She says that method acting is a luxury that women can't afford because it will not align with their other roles in real life. Method acting is a way in which actors fully embody their characters to achieve surreal performances. Portman says she's able to separate herself from her on-screen roles when she is not shooting. Actor Jessica Alba says that going to therapy with her daughters put her in check. In an interview, she said that therapy helped her children empathize with her better. She reportedly turned to therapy years ago when she found herself fighting unreasonably with her eldest daughter. Actor Barry Keoghan recalls battling with necrotizing fasciitis in an interview. Necrotizing fasciitis is a rare bacterial infection that spreads rapidly in the body and can cause death. Keoghan revealed that doctors were considering the amputation of his arm where the disease had spread. The actor recovered from the infection days before he started shooting for his Oscar-nominated role in Banshees of Inisherin. Actor Nicole Eggert has revealed on a podcast that she has been diagnosed with cancer. She said that she has stage 2 breast cancer. Nicole says that she found an oncologist and will undergo tests this week to decide the course of the treatment. Actor Adan Kanto has passed away at the age of 42 after battling cancer. The actor's publicist said that he succumbed to cancer in the appendix. Kanto was known for his roles in Designated Survivor and X-Men: Days of Future Past. He is survived by his wife and 2 children.